Simple girl lets a man sleep in her home, without knowing he was a wealthy investor. Emily Johnson never imagined her generosity would change her life forever. The young seamstress, just 22 years old, could barely pay the bills for her small apartment in the Queens neighborhood of New York City, but she never turned away anyone in need. It all began on a rainy Tuesday in April. Emily was returning home from the garment factory, where she sewed for 16 hours a day, when she found a well-dressed man collapsed at the entrance of her building. "Oh my goodness, are you all right?" she asked, kneeling beside him. The man opened his eyes with difficulty. His dark hair was soaked from the rain, and his dress shirt, clearly worth more than Emily's monthly salary, was stained with mud. I don't remember," he murmured, trying to sit up. "Easy, don't strain yourself. Let me help you upstairs." Emily glanced around. It was nearly midnight and the streets were empty. She couldn't leave him there, especially in that state. Despite her slight frame, she managed to help him up to her tiny second-floor apartment. "You can lie down here on the sofa," she said, fluffing a pillow. "I'll get you a towel to dry off." The man surveyed the room while Emily went to the bathroom. The living space was small but tidy. The furniture was simple, some pieces clearly second-hand, but everything was clean and orderly. A sewing machine occupied one corner, surrounded by stacks of fabric. "Thank you," he said when she returned with the towel. "I'm Michael. Emily, do you remember what happened?" Michael rubbed his forehead, wincing in pain. "Not much. I remember walking and then nothing. I must have hit my head somewhere. I'll make you some tea, you must be freezing." While Emily brewed chamomile tea in her tiny kitchen, Michael tried to gather his thoughts. Fragments of memories came and went like waves. He recalled an office, people shouting numbers, overwhelming stress, but the details slipped away like sand through his fingers. "Here you go," Emily said, handing him a steaming mug. "I don't have sugar, sorry. It's perfect like this." Michael sipped the tea quietly, studying the young woman. Her brown hair was tied in a simple ponytail, and her dark eyes radiated genuine kindness. Her clothes were plain, jeans and a cotton blouse, but she carried herself with natural dignity. "Do you live alone?" he asked. "Yes, it's small, but it's mine. Well, I'm still paying it off, but..." Emily trailed off, realizing she was sharing personal details with a complete stranger. "Sorry, I shouldn't..." "No, you've been incredibly kind to help me. Most people would have walked right by." "My grandmother always said you never know when you might need help too." Michael nodded, feeling a pang of something he couldn't quite place. That simplicity, that selfless kindness, it was something he hadn't encountered in a long time. "You can stay the night," Emily said. "Tomorrow morning, if you'd like, I can help you find someone or somewhere to go." "I don't want to impose..." "It's no trouble, the sofa's comfortable, and I have to wake up early for work anyway." Michael accepted gratefully. Emily brought him an old but clean blanket and bid him good night, disappearing down the short hallway to her bedroom. Throughout the night, Michael was plagued by disjointed nightmares, images of tense meetings, people shouting, spreadsheets filled with red numbers. He woke several times in a cold sweat, but gradually the pieces began falling into place. When Emily left for work the next morning, she left a note saying there was coffee in the kitchen and that he was welcome to stay as long as he needed. Michael read the note over and over, moved by her trust. During the day, alone in the apartment, the memories came flooding back like an avalanche. He remembered everything now. Michael Anderson, 35 years old, one of the biggest investors in the country. Owner of a fortune most people couldn't even imagine. The memory of what had led him to that situation also returned. A meeting gone wrong, furious partners, threats. He had left the office distraught and walked in the rain for hours trying to process it all. He must have stumbled or passed out on the sidewalk. When Emily arrived home that night, she was exhausted. Her fingers ached from all the sewing, and she could barely keep her eyes open. "How are you feeling?" she asked, taking off her shoes by the door. "Much better, and you look tired." "It was a long day at work." Michael noticed the thimble marks on her hands, the dark circles under her eyes, the hunched posture of someone who had spent the day bent over a sewing machine. "What exactly do you do?" "I sew for a clothing factory." Simple pieces, but the deadlines are always tight. Emily went to the kitchen and opened the nearly empty fridge. There were only a few eggs, a piece of cheese, and some milk. "I'll make an omelette for both of us," she said. "You don't have to." "Of course I do, you're my guest." Michael watched Emily prepare the simple meal with the few ingredients she had. She divided everything equally, even though it was obvious the amount would barely feed one person. "Aren't you going to eat?" he asked when she only put omelette on his plate. "I already ate at work," she lied, pouring herself just a glass of milk. Michael knew she was lying but didn't press further. During the meal, Emily talked about her job, the neighborhood, the neighbors. She had a simple, warm way of telling stories that made Michael feel relaxed for the first time in months. "Tomorrow I'll look for a place to stay," he said. "Do you remember where you live?" Michael hesitated. He remembered perfectly well his penthouse in the Upper East Side, his office on Wall Street, the cars, the staff. But something stopped him from telling the truth. "Some things are still fuzzy," he said, not entirely lying. "Then stay one more day. I'm in no hurry." That night, Michael lay awake thinking. Why was he lying? Why not just tell her who he was, thank her, and leave? But every time he thought about revealing his identity, it felt like breaking something precious and fragile. The next day, when Emily left for work, Michael made a decision. He would leave, but first, he'd do something for her. He put on his still damp shirt from the rain and went out. 2 hours later, he returned with several grocery bags. He filled the fridge with fruits, vegetables, meats, and dairy. When Emily came home and saw the food, she was furious. "What is this?" she shouted. "Food! I thought, I don't take charity from anyone." Emily started pulling everything out of the fridge. "I can take care of myself." Michael had never seen anyone reject help so vehemently. In his world, people begged for favors, investments, opportunities. "It's not charity," he said quickly. "I got a job today. Informal, but it pays well. It's my contribution for staying here." Emily stopped emptying the fridge and eyed him suspiciously. "What kind of job?" "Loading boxes at a warehouse. The owner needed someone urgently." It was a complete lie, but Michael delivered it convincingly. Emily relaxed slightly. "You're sure you're not playing me?" "I'm sure. And one more thing. If you let me stay a few more days, I'll split the household bills." Emily considered the offer. Money was tight, and having someone to share expenses would help a lot. "All right," she said finally. "But no unnecessary luxuries." Michael smiled, feeling a small but significant victory. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. The following days settled into a strange but comfortable routine. Emily would leave early for work, and Michael pretended to do the same. In reality, he spent his days walking around the city, observing a New York City he had never seen before. The New York City of workers, crowded bus stops, and bank lines. At night, he returned to the apartment and they had dinner together. Emily always prepared simple but delicious meals, and Michael discovered he preferred those to the business dinners at expensive restaurants he used to frequent. "Do you have family?" Emily asked one evening. "Not much. My parents died when I was young. What about you?" "My mom lives out in the country, in Rochester. She's sick and I send her money when I can." Michael noticed the sadness in her voice. "How long has it been since you've seen her?" 2 years. I don't have money for the ticket, and I can't miss work." "And your father?" "Never met him. My mom raised me alone." Michael felt an unexpected connection. He too had grown up alone after his parents died in a car accident. The difference was that he had inherited a small business, which he turned into an empire through obsessive work and risky decisions. "It must have been hard for her," he said. "It was. She worked as a cleaner her whole life to raise me. Always said I'd have a better life." Emily smiled sadly. "I think she imagined something grander than sewing in a factory." "There's nothing wrong with sewing. It's honest work." "Yeah, but sometimes I dream of other things. Having my own shop, working with beautiful clothes, having time to create. Michael watched her eyes light up as she spoke about her dreams. In his world, people talked about millions, acquisitions, profits. But there was something in the simplicity of Emily's dreams that touched a part of him that had been dormant for years. A few nights later, Michael was woken by a strange noise. He got up from the couch and found Emily in the kitchen, bent over the sink, vomiting. "Emily, what's wrong?" She was pale and shaking. "I think it's just exhaustion," she said, barely able to stand. Michael helped her back to bed and insisted she stay lying down. "I'll make some tea," he said. "You don't have to. I have to work tomorrow." "You're not going to work sick." "I have to. If I miss a day, they'll fire me." "One day won't make a difference." "Yes, it will." Emily tried to sit up, but collapsed back onto the bed. "You don't understand. I can't lose this job." Michael saw the desperation in her eyes and felt a strange anger. How could a workplace treat its employees like this? The next morning, Emily insisted on going to work despite still being weak. Michael tried to convince her to stay, but she wouldn't budge. "If I don't go, they'll replace me by the end of the day," she said. 2 hours after she left, Michael got a call. It was Emily, crying. "Can you come get me?" she sobbed into the phone. Michael rushed to the factory and found Emily sitting on the sidewalk looking devastated. "What happened?" "I fainted at the sewing machine. The owner said I was faking it for attention and fired me." Michael helped Emily get home and convinced her to go to the clinic. The doctor was blunt. She had severe anemia from poor nutrition and overwork. "You need to eat better and rest," the doctor said. "I'll write you a note for a week off." "A week?" Emily panicked. "Doctor, I can't go a week without working." "Ma'am, if you don't rest now, you could face much worse problems." On the way back home, Emily cried silently. "I'll look for another job tomorrow," she said. "You heard the doctor. You need to rest." "I can't rest. I have bills to pay. My mother needs medicine. How can you not understand?" Michael understood perfectly. For the first time in his life, he was seeing up close how most people lived, trapped in an exhausting cycle of work just to survive. That night, after Emily fell asleep, Michael made some calls, first to his lawyers, then to private investigators. He wanted to know everything about the factory where Emily worked. The reports came 2 days later. The company had a history of labor violations, tax evasion, and conditions akin to slavery. The owner, Richard Thompson, was known for exploiting mostly young women and immigrants. Michael felt a cold fury growing inside him. People like Richard were exactly the kind he despised, profiteers who built fortunes on the suffering of others. Meanwhile, Emily was slowly recovering. Michael insisted she eat properly and rest, but he could see anxiety consuming her with each day without work. "I'll have to borrow money to pay the rent," she said one afternoon, staring at the bills on the table. "I can help." "No," she cut in. "I already owe you too much." "You don't owe me anything." "Yes, I do. You've been feeding us both, paying part of the bills. I'll pay it all back as soon as I get a job." Michael watched Emily scribble calculations on a notebook page, noting every penny she owed. In his world, people owed millions without losing sleep. But for Emily, every dollar mattered. On Thursday, she said she was going out to look for work. "The doctor said you should rest for 2 more days," Michael reminded her. "I can't wait. The longer I stay idle, the harder it'll be to find something." Emily dressed in the best clothes she had, a navy blue skirt and a white blouse, and left. Michael stayed alone in the apartment, looking around. Over the past 2 weeks, that tiny place had become more of a home to him than his 5,000 square foot penthouse. Emily returned in the evening, discouraged. "How did it go?" Michael asked. "Everyone wants experience, but no one wants to give a chance, and the ones who would hire me pay less than half what I used to make. Something will come up." "Will it?" Emily stared at him bitterly. "Do you really believe that, or are you just trying to cheer me up?" Michael didn't know how to answer. In his world, if something didn't work out, there were always other options, other paths. But for people like Emily, the options were limited and cruel. That night, Emily called her mother. Michael tried not to listen, but the apartment was small and the walls were thin. "Mom, I know you need the medicine." "I know, Mom, I promised I'd send it this month." "Okay, 1 more week, I promise." When she hung up, Emily was crying. "Is your mother very sick?" Michael asked gently. "Diabetes. She needs insulin, but it's expensive. I always sent money every month, but now... Isn't there another way, some government program?" "There is, but the waiting list is long, and she can't read well enough to fill out the forms." Michael's chest tightened. He spent on one dinner what Emily's insulin cost for months. The injustice of it enraged him. "I'll get the money," Emily said, more to herself than to him. "I'll find a way." "How?" Emily was silent for a moment. "I can sell some things. The sewing machine is worth something." "You can't sell your sewing machine." "Yes, I can. What good is a machine if I have no work?" Michael stayed up all night thinking. By morning, he had made a decision. "I'm leaving early today," he told Emily. I have a job interview." It was a lie, but he needed an excuse to be away. He left the apartment and went straight to his office. When he arrived at the mirrored building on Wall Street, Michael felt strange. That world of expensive ties and endless meetings seemed distant and artificial after the past few weeks. "Mr. Anderson?" his secretary exclaimed. "Where have you been? We were worried." "I had to take care of some personal matters," he said. "Cancel all my appointments today. I need to speak with our lawyers." Michael spent the day planning. First, he ordered an investigation into Emily's mother's situation. Then, he instructed his lawyers to begin a formal inquiry into Richard Thompson's garment factory. When he returned to the apartment in the late afternoon, he found Emily packing up the sewing machine. "What are you doing?" "I'm taking it to the thrift store tomorrow. They said they'd pay $200. "Emily, don't do this." "I have no choice, Michael." She stopped packing and looked at him. "You're a good person. You helped me when I needed it most, but you don't understand what it's like to live like this. You don't know what it means to have nowhere to turn when things get hard." Michael wanted to tell her everything right then, who he really was, how he could solve all her problems with a single phone call, but something held him back. Maybe it was fear of how she'd react, or maybe it was selfishness, fear of losing the only person who saw him just as Michael, not as the billionaire businessman. "What if I could get a loan?" he asked. "From who?" "You've been working as a box carrier for 2 weeks." "I have some connections." "Michael, stop. You've already done too much for me. I won't accept more charity." "It's not charity if you pay it back." Emily stared at him for a long moment. "Why are you doing this? You barely know me." Michael hesitated. "You helped me when I was lost. It's the least I can do." "It's more than that." Emily stepped closer. "There's something you're not telling me." Michael's heart raced. Emily was so close, and for the first time he noticed how beautiful her eyes were, how there was a quiet strength in her that drew him in. "There's nothing," he lied. "Yes, there is. Sometimes you talk a certain way. Sometimes you know things a box carrier shouldn't know." "What kind of things?" "Yesterday you mentioned investment funds when we were watching the news. What box carrier knows about investment funds?" Michael cursed himself for being careless. "I used to work at a bank before the memory problems." "What kind of problems?" "I don't want to talk about it." Emily studied him a moment longer, then went back to packing the machine. "Fine. Everyone has their secrets." That night Michael couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Emily selling the sewing machine that represented her only skill, her only dreams. In the morning, he left before she woke up. He went straight to a shopping center and bought a professional sewing machine, far better than hers. Then he stopped at a fabric store and bought expensive materials, silks, wools, imported fabrics. When he returned, Emily had already left to take the machine to the thrift store. Michael set everything up in the apartment and waited. Emily came back 2 hours later, her eyes red from crying. "What is all this?" she asked, staring at the new machine and fabrics. "I got the loan," Michael said. "What loan? From where?" "From a contact at the bank where I used to work. He lent me $5,000. $5,000? Emily paled. "Michael, how are you going to pay for this?" "We'll pay for it. Together. You'll work for yourself, make beautiful clothes like you've always dreamed. I'll help you find clients. This is crazy. I don't know how to work for myself. You sew better than anyone. I've seen the clothes you fix for the neighbors. You have talent, Emily." She walked over to the new machine and ran her hand over the shiny metal. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "It's yours." "No, it's not. It's ours. We're partners now, right?" Michael smiled. "We're partners." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing, the following days were filled with hard work. Emily tried out the new machine and discovered she could do things she'd never attempted before. She began sewing dresses, blouses, and skirts with the beautiful fabrics Michael had bought. "Where did you learn about fabrics?" she asked one afternoon, watching Michael inspect the quality of a silk. "The internet," he lied. "I did a lot of research before buying." In truth, Michael had consulted stylists who worked for his companies, but he couldn't tell her that. The first client came by chance. Mrs. Wilson, the neighbor from next door, saw Emily sewing and asked her to alter a dress for her daughter's wedding. "How much do you charge?" Mrs. Wilson asked. Emily glanced at Michael, unsure. $50, she said timidly. "Deal." When Mrs. Wilson left, Michael shook his head. "You're charging way too little. $50 is a lot of money. For work of this quality, it should be at least $100. "Michael, Mrs. Wilson is a cleaner. She doesn't have $100 to spend on alterations." "Then charge her $50 and $100 from everyone else." "What other people?" "The ones who'll come when they see the work you've done." Michael was right. 2 weeks later, Emily had a waiting list of clients, women from the Queens neighborhood who wanted beautiful clothes, but couldn't afford downtown boutique prices. "You were right about the prices," Emily said one evening, counting the money she'd made that day. "You're the one with the talent. I just gave you a little push." "It's more than that. You have a knack for business. Have you ever thought about taking a course?" Michael almost laughed. He had a degree in business from Columbia University and 2 MBAs from abroad. "Maybe someday," he said. "I think you should. You have a natural talent." That week they managed to pay all of Emily's bills and even had money left to send to her mother. For the first time in months, Emily slept peacefully, but the peace didn't last long. On Friday, Richard Thompson showed up at the apartment door. "So this is where the little princess is living," he said with a cruel smile. "What do you want?" Emily asked, frightened. "I heard you're sewing on your own now. That's unfair competition." "What do you mean? You learned everything at my company. Now you're using what you learned to steal my clients." "I'm not stealing from anyone." Michael appeared in the doorway behind Emily. "What's the problem here?" Richard looked Michael up and down, noticing his confident posture and the way he spoke. "And who are you?" "Michael." "And you?" "Richard Thompson, owner of the factory where she used to work," Richard said, pointing at Emily. "And I'm sure I've seen you somewhere before." Michael felt a chill in his stomach. Richard attended business events. It was possible they'd crossed paths before. "Must be a mistake," Michael said. "Maybe." Richard turned his attention back to Emily. "Anyway, I came here to make an offer. Quit this little independent seamstress act and come back to work for me. I'll even pay you a bit more than before." "No, thank you," Emily said firmly. "No?" Richard laughed. "You know I own half the buildings in this neighborhood, right? Including this one where you live. So what? So what? Your rent is due next week. I can decide not to renew the lease." Emily paled. "You can't do that." "Oh, I can. I'm the landlord. And I can also spread the word that you're a deadbeat, that you steal clients, that you don't pay your suppliers." "That's a lie." "Is it? Who's going to believe a little seamstress over me?" Michael stepped forward, but Emily grabbed his arm. "How much time are you giving me?" she asked, defeated. "Until Monday. Show up at the factory at 7 in the morning." Richard walked away laughing, leaving Emily in tears. "He can't do this," Michael said, furious. "Yes, he can. He's rich, powerful. I'm just a seamstress." "We'll find a solution." "What solution?" "You heard what he said. He'll destroy me if I don't go back." "What if we report him?" "To who? Who's going to believe me?" Michael wanted to shout that he could ruin Richard with one phone call, that he had enough power to crush that worm without breaking a sweat, but he kept his mouth shut. That night, Emily barely touched her food. I'll have to accept his offer, she said. No, you won't. Yes, I will. And you'll have to find another place to live too. Emily, stop it, Michael. She looked at him with tear-filled eyes. I tried. I really tried to believe I could have a different life. But people like me don't get that luxury. Don't talk like that. It's the truth. I was born poor, I'll die poor. That's how things work. Michael felt his heart breaking. This wasn't the dream-filled Emily he'd met. This was someone broken by cruel reality. What if I had an idea? He said. What kind of idea? What if we could buy the building? Emily laughed bitterly. With what money? Did you forget we're workers, not millionaires? I know investors who... Enough, Michael, she yelled. Stop with these fantasies. I'm tired of dreaming. Dreaming just hurts more when you wake up. Emily went to the bedroom and slammed the door. Michael stayed alone in the living room, staring at the silent sewing machine. By dawn, he'd made a decision. The next morning, he left before Emily woke up. He went straight to the office and gathered his lawyers. I want you to buy the building where Richard Thompson lives, he said. You mean the building where his office is? No, the building where he lives, and all the other properties he owns in the Queens neighborhood. Sir, that'll cost... I don't care what it costs. Make him an offer he can't refuse. Today. And then? Then we'll see how he likes being threatened with eviction. The lawyers exchanged glances. Michael rarely used his power for personal matters, but when he did, he was ruthless. One more thing, Michael continued. I want a full investigation into all of Richard Thompson's businesses. Taxes, working conditions, everything. Yes, sir. Michael spent the day in the office coordinating the operation. It was like a corporate war, but this time it wasn't about money. It was about Emily. When he returned to the apartment that evening, he found Emily silently sewing. How are you? He asked. Fine. Resigned. Resigned how? I'm accepting Richard's offer. On Monday, I'm going back to work for him. Emily. It's the sensible thing, Michael. She didn't stop sewing. And you should look for a more stable job too. This box-carrying gig won't last forever. Michael felt a pang of guilt. Emily was trying to take care of him, worried about his future, not knowing he could buy and sell Richard Thompson 10 times in one day. What if I told you there's a chance you won't have to go back there? What chance, Don? Do you trust me? Emily finally stopped sewing and looked at him. I do, but I don't want you doing anything dangerous or illegal. It's nothing like that. Just trust me till Monday. Michael, what are you planning? Nothing big. I just want to try one more option before you give up. Emily sighed. All right, but if it doesn't work on Monday, I'll go work for Richard, and that's final. Deal. That night, Michael barely slept. On Saturday morning, he got a call from the lawyers. Mr. Anderson, we did it. Richard Thompson accepted our offer. Starting Monday, you'll own all his properties in the Queens neighborhood. Perfect. And the investigation? We found several irregularities. Tax evasion, unsafe working conditions, illegal contracts. We have enough to shut down all his businesses. Great. Prepare the paperwork. Michael hung up and smiled. Richard Thompson had no idea his life was about to change drastically. On Sunday, Michael tried to act normal, but Emily noticed something was off. You're acting strange, she said. Strange how? Excited. Like you know something. I'm just feeling optimistic. About what? About the future. Emily shook her head. Sometimes I think you live in a different world than I do. If only she knew how right she was, Michael thought. On Monday morning, Emily got ready for work. She put on a simple outfit and tied up her hair. Wish me luck, she said. You won't need luck. How can you be so sure? Because I believe in you. Emily kissed him on the cheek before leaving. Michael's heart raced at her touch. An hour later, Emily's phone rang. It was Richard, shouting on the other end. What the hell did you do? He yelled. What do you mean I didn't do anything? Someone bought all my buildings, every single one, and now they're threatening to evict me. What? Emily looked at Michael, confused. And that's not all. Investigators showed up at my company demanding to see all the records. Someone's sabotaging me. Mr. Thompson, I don't know what you're talking about. I know it was you. You and that mysterious boyfriend of yours. I swear I don't know anything. Fine. You want to play games? Let's play. I'll find out who's behind this, and when I do. The call dropped. Emily stared at Michael, who feigned surprise. What was that? He asked. I don't know. Someone bought Richard's buildings. He thinks it was me. How could you have done that? Exactly, it's impossible. Emily thought for a moment. Unless what? Never mind. It's silly. 2 hours later, the doorbell rang. A man in a suit stood there holding a briefcase. I'm looking for Mrs. Emily Johnson. That's me. My name is Dr. Williams, attorney. I represent the new owner of this building. Okay. He'd like to speak with you about your lease. Emily paled. Is he evicting me too? Quite the opposite. He'd like to offer you a lifetime lease with a fixed rate and no increases. What do you mean? The owner was impressed by your work as a seamstress and wants to support your business. Emily glanced at Michael, who kept a neutral expression. Who is this owner? He prefers to remain anonymous for now, but he left this letter for you. The lawyer handed her a sealed envelope and left. Emily opened the letter with trembling hands. Dear Emily, I've heard of your talent and dedication through mutual friends. I'd like to offer not only a lifetime lease for your apartment, but also an interest-free loan to expand your sewing business. America needs more people like you, hardworking, honest, and talented. I hope you accept this small help. An anonymous admirer. Michael, Emily said slowly. This is very strange. It is, but it's an incredible opportunity. Too strange to be true. These things don't happen to people like me. Maybe it's your time to get lucky. Emily reread the letter several times. There's something here you're not telling me. What do you mean? First, Richard is attacked by mysterious investigators. Then an anonymous benefactor shows up. That's no coincidence. Sometimes life surprises you. Not my life. My life is predictable and hard. Good things don't just happen out of nowhere. Emily stepped closer to Michael and stared into his eyes. Who are you, really? You know who I am. No. I know your name is Michael, that you showed up unconscious at my door, and that you say you work carrying boxes. But I don't know who you really are. Emily, stop treating me like I'm stupid, she shouted. Do you think I don't notice how you talk, how you act, how you know things a box carrier wouldn't? Michael sighed. It's complicated. Then explain. If I explain, everything between us will change. Everything has already changed. The moment this letter arrived, everything changed. Michael looked at Emily for a long moment. She was right. There was no more hiding. My full name is Michael Anderson. And I'm a businessman, owner of several companies. What kind of companies? Big companies, very big. How big? Michael hesitated. I could buy and sell men like Richard Thompson without a second thought. Emily sank heavily onto the couch. You're rich. Yes. Very rich. Yes. Then why are you here? Why did you lie to me? At first, I really had partially lost my memory. Later, when I remembered everything, I couldn't leave. Why? Because for the first time in my life, someone saw me just as a person. Not as money, not as an opportunity. Just as Michael. Emily shook her head slowly. So you've been playing with me this whole time? No, it was never a game. Everything I felt, everything I lived here with you, was real. Real? Emily laughed bitterly. You watched me go hungry and lied to me, saw me desperate for money and pretended you were in the same situation. I wanted to tell you, when I ended up on the street, when my mother died from lack of medicine. Emily, please, get out of my house. Let me explain to you. Get out of my house, she screamed. Michael stood still for a moment, then went to the couch and gathered his few things. Emily, I know you're hurt, but I don't want to hear it. I don't want to see you anymore, and I don't want any of your money. She took the letter from the anonymous investor and tore it to pieces. This is you too, isn't it? Yes. Then take it back. Emily opened the door. Leave. Go back to your world of wealth and forget about me. I can't forget you. Yes, you can. I bet there are plenty of rich, beautiful women waiting for you. That's not true. It is. And they're much more suitable for you than a poor seamstress. Emily, just go. Michael left the apartment. Emily slammed the door behind him and collapsed to the floor, crying. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing. Michael spent the next week in his Upper East Side apartment, but couldn't focus on anything. He tried to return to his work routine, but every meeting felt pointless. The numbers on the spreadsheets made no sense. His partner's concerns seemed trivial. Mr. Anderson, his secretary said on Thursday. Are you all right? He's cancelled all his important appointments for the week. I'm fine, he lied. The board is concerned. You never act like this. Michael sighed. She was right. In 15 years of building his empire, he had never let personal matters interfere with work. Schedule a meeting with the board for tomorrow morning. Yes, sir. That night, Michael drove to the Queens neighborhood. He sat in his car in front of Emily's building, staring at the second-floor windows. The light was on. She was there. Several times, he wanted to go up, knock on her door, try to talk. But he always backed out. What could he say? How could he explain he'd been lying for so long? By Saturday, he couldn't take it anymore. He asked one of his investigators to find out how Emily was doing. Sir, the investigator said 2 hours later, Miss Johnson has gone back to work at the factory. Richard's factory? Michael stood up from his chair, furious. Yes, sir. It seems they reached an agreement. What kind of agreement? I couldn't get details, but she went back to work there on Wednesday. Michael hung up, shaking with anger. Richard had forced Emily to return. He'd probably used blackmail, threats. He immediately called his lawyers. I want Richard Thompson sued for every irregularity you found, today. Sir, it's Saturday. I don't care. I want him in jail by Monday. Mr. Anderson, may I ask why the sudden urgency? He's exploiting an employee I know. Understood. We'll handle it. Michael hung up, feeling slightly better. At least he could protect Emily, even if she didn't know it. Monday morning, he arrived at the office to find his partners in an emergency meeting. Michael, said Robert, his oldest partner, we need to talk. About what? About this personal war you're waging against Richard Thompson. Michael sat at the head of the table. It's not a personal war, it's justice. Justice, another partner laughed. You spent $3 million buying old buildings just to spite a second-rate businessman. Richard Thompson exploits his workers. Someone had to do something. Since when do you care about social justice? Robert asked. Since now. Michael, we've been friends for 15 years. I know you. This is about a woman. Michael didn't answer. That's it, isn't it? Robert pressed. You got involved with someone connected to Richard. My personal life isn't your business. It is when you use company resources to settle personal scores. I used my own money. Fine. But we can't let you ruin your reputation over a woman. I'm not ruining anything. Yes, you are. Robert pulled out a folder. The financial papers are already speculating about your motives. Some say you're having a nervous breakdown. Michael read the headlines. Michael Anderson in baffling corporate war. Billionaire acting erratically. Anderson losing control? This will blow over, he said. Will it? What if this woman doesn't come back to you? Will you keep destroying random businessmen? Michael slammed his fist on the table. Enough! I founded this company. I decide what to do with my money and my time. Fine, Robert said, raising his hands. But think carefully about what you're doing. Don't let your heart destroy everything you've built. That afternoon, Michael was in his office when his secretary announced an unexpected visitor. There's a young lady here who says she needs to speak with you urgently. Who is it? Emily Johnson. Michael's heart raced. Send her in. Emily stepped into the office and froze at the door, awestruck. The space was intimidating, floor-to-ceiling glass, expensive furniture, a panoramic view of the city. "So this is how you live," she said. "Emily." Michael got up from the table. "No, let me speak first." She approached the table but kept her distance. "I came here for two things. First, to return this." Emily pulled an envelope from her bag and placed it on the table. "What is it?" "Money. All the money you spent on me. I counted every penny and returned it all." "Emily, you don't have to." "Yes, I do. I don't accept charity." "It wasn't charity." "Yes, it was. The rich guy helping the poor little girl. That's charity." Michael opened the envelope. Inside were nearly $2,000 in crumpled bills. "How did you get this money?" "Working. I went back to Richard's factory." "Why? You hated working there." "Because I need to work, and unlike you, I don't get to choose. You could have accepted my help." "Help from who? From Michael the box carrier or billionaire Michael? Because one I'd accept, the other is humiliation." Michael felt like he'd been punched in the gut. "I never meant to humiliate you." "Really? Then what did you want? To amuse yourself seeing how the poor live?" "That's not it." "Yes, it is." Emily took a deep breath. "And that brings me to the second thing I came to say." "What?" "Stop protecting me." "What do you mean? Do you think I'm stupid?" "Richard was arrested on Saturday for irregularities that came out of nowhere. The factory is closing and all the workers will lose their jobs." Michael didn't know what to say. "You did this for me, didn't you? He was exploiting you. And now 40 people will be unemployed because of you," Emily shouted. 40 families with no income. "I didn't think about that." "Of course you didn't. People like you never think about the consequences. You solve problems with money and screw whoever gets hurt." "Emily, I can help those workers with more charity, more blood money." "It's not blood money." "Yes, it is. Everything you have was built on the suffering of people like me." "That's not true, isn't it?" Emily stepped even closer. "Then tell me how you became a billionaire. By exploiting workers just like Richard, only on a bigger scale." Michael wanted to protest, but the words died in his throat. Part of her was right. His early successes had come from cutting costs, paying low wages, outsourcing to companies that exploited workers. "No answer," Emily said. "Because you know I'm right. Things aren't that simple." "Yes, they are. There are those who exploit and those who are exploited. You're an exploiter pretending to be a victim." "I've changed." "No, you haven't. You're still the same. The difference is now you're using your power to chase me." "I'm not chasing you. I'm trying to protect you." "I never asked for your protection," Emily shouted. "I asked for honesty. I asked for respect, but you can't give me that because you can't see past your own guilt." "What guilt?" "The guilt of being rich in a country of the poor. The guilt of having everything while others have nothing. You thought helping me would make you feel better about yourself." Emily's words hit Michael like bullets. That was exactly it. His generosity hadn't been about her. It had been about his own conscience. "You're right," he admitted. "I know I am." Emily took a deep breath. "That's why I'm leaving." "What do you mean, leaving?" "I'm going back to Rochester to take care of my mother." "What about work?" "I'll sew there. In a small town, people know each other, trust each other. I don't need rich benefactors." "Emily, don't do this." "Why?" "Because you'll miss playing poor." "Because I love you." The words came out before Michael could stop himself. Emily froze. "What?" "I love you. Truly. This has nothing to do with guilt or charity. I fell in love with you. You fell in love with your fantasy of me, the brave little seamstress who faced her problems alone, not the real me." "That's not true." "Yes, it is. If you really loved me, you would have trusted me. You would have told me the truth from the beginning." "I was afraid." "Afraid of what?" "Afraid that you'd see me like everyone else does, like money, like an opportunity. And now I do." Emily picked up her purse. "But not the way you think." "Then how?" "Like everything that's wrong with the world, like the reason people like my mother die from lack of medicine, while people like you spend millions on whims." Emily walked to the door, then turned back. "Do you know the difference between you and Richard?" "What?" "None. You both use power to get what you want. The difference is, you think you're the good guy. Emily, wait. Stop following me, Michael. Stop protecting me. Stop trying to save me. I don't want anything from you. What if I give it all up? What if I donate all the money? Emily stopped at the door. Why? To prove you love me? So I'll come back to you? If that's what it takes. It doesn't. Because even if you were poor tomorrow, you'd still be the man who lied to me for months. You'd still be someone I can't trust. I can change. You can. But not for me. And not to get me back. If you really love me, let me go and be happy far away from you. Emily left the office. Michael stood alone, staring out the window at the city below. A week later, he learned Emily had truly left. He searched the apartment in Queens and found a neighbor who confirmed it. She went upstate to take care of her mother, said Mrs. Wilson. Poor thing, she was so sad. Did she leave any message? No, just said she was starting over. Michael went home and, for the first time in years, didn't know what to do. His life had lost its meaning. He spent weeks trying to return to his normal routine, but couldn't. Meetings felt like theater, profits like empty numbers. He had everything he'd ever wanted, but felt miserable. It was on a Thursday that Robert showed up in his office with an unexpected proposal. I have an idea, he said. What kind of idea? What if you really changed? What do you mean? You said you fell in love with a seamstress, with someone who works with her hands, who fights every day just to survive. So maybe you should learn to be that kind of person. Michael looked at him, confused. I'm serious, Robert continued. Sell everything. Keep just enough to live decently without luxury. Work with your own hands. Have you lost your mind? Lost it? Or am I the only one seeing the obvious? What's obvious? That you're not happy being rich. You never were. You built this empire because you didn't know how to do anything else, but you were never happy. Michael wanted to argue, but realized Robert was right. His obsessive pursuit of money and power had started as a way to protect himself after his parents' death, but it had become a prison. Even if I wanted to, Michael said, it's impossible. I have responsibilities, employees, investors. Sell to other groups. Distribute the profits among the employees. Create a fund for social projects. There are plenty of ways to do this without hurting anyone. And then you go after her. Not as billionaire Michael Anderson, but as Michael. Just Michael. What if she doesn't want me back? Then at least you'll know you tried the right way. Michael thought about the proposal for days. It was crazy, but it was also the only thing that made sense. 2 weeks later, he gathered the board. I'm selling my stake in the company, he announced. The room fell silent. Jas, what do you mean? Asked one of the directors. I'm selling everything and stepping away from business. Michael, Robert said, are you sure about this? I am. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. And what will you do after? I'll start over. From scratch. The sales process took 3 months. Michael sold his shares to other business groups and used part of the money to create an assistance fund for employees of the companies he had targeted, including Richard's garment factory. He kept only a modest sum, enough to buy a simple house and live decently, but without luxuries. When everything was finalized, Michael bought a ticket to Rochester. The city was very different from New York City, smaller, quieter, where people greeted each other on the street. Michael rented a room in a boarding house and began searching for Emily. It wasn't hard to find her. In small towns, everyone knows each other. She was living in a modest house on the outskirts with her mother, Mrs. Parker, who was in much better health. Michael watched the house from a distance for a few days, trying to gather the courage to approach. Emily had set up a small sewing workshop on the front porch and received clients all day long. She seemed different, lighter, more smiling. She was happy. It was on a Saturday morning that Michael finally decided to approach. Emily was on the porch, sewing a wedding dress, when she saw him. Michael, she said, incredulous, what are you doing here? I came looking for you. How did you find me? It wasn't hard. Michael stepped closer to the porch. Can I talk to you? Emily glanced around. A few neighbors were already watching the conversation with curiosity. "Come in," she finally said. The house was tiny but cozy. Mrs. Parker was in the living room, watching TV. "Mom," Emily said, "this is the Michael I told you about." Mrs. Parker looked Michael up and down with suspicion. "You're the rich guy who lied to my daughter?" "Mom," Emily exclaimed. "I was," Michael said, "but not anymore." "What do you mean?" Emily asked. "I sold everything, all the businesses, all the properties. I gave the money away." "Why?" "Because you were right. I wasn't happy being rich. And because I wanted to prove to you that I can change." Emily stared at him for a long moment. "Prove how?" "I'm looking for work here in town, real work with my hands." "And did you find any?" "A carpentry shop needs an assistant. It doesn't pay much, but it's honest." "Michael," Emily sighed, "you didn't have to do this." "Yes, I did, for myself. And what do you want from me?" "A chance. A chance to start over, to be honest with you from day one." "Like we don't know each other." "Exactly. Like we're just meeting now. No lies, no disguises." Emily thought for a moment. "What if I say no? Then I'll accept it and keep living my life here. I won't chase you or try to convince you." "Why here?" "Because I like this town. It's peaceful. The people are genuine. It's a good place to start over." Mrs. Parker, who had been listening silently, finally spoke. "Emily, take him for a walk. Talk to him properly." "Mom, go. I'll stay here finishing Mrs. Thompson's dress." Emily and Michael walked along the dirt roads of the outskirts. It was a simple neighborhood with small houses and yards full of plants. "How have you been?" Michael asked. "Good. Really good, actually. My mom's better. I have plenty of work. The people here are real friends." "Do you miss New York City?" "Sometimes, but here I have peace." They walked in silence for a while until they reached a small square with a few benches. "Can I ask you something?" Emily said. "Of course." "Why did you really do this? Sold everything, came after me." "Why?" Michael sat on a bench and looked at the horizon. "Because for the first time in my life I felt alive. Those days in your apartment sharing thin soup, sleeping on the old couch, I'd never been happier." "Even while lying to me?" "Especially while lying to you." "Because in those moments, I wasn't the billionaire Michael Anderson. I was just Michael, a regular guy who had met an incredible woman. And now I'm really just Michael. I have nothing but a suitcase of clothes and the desire to start over." Emily stayed silent for a while. "Do you have any idea what you're doing?" she finally asked. "No, I don't have the slightest clue. I've never worked with my hands, never lived on a tight budget for real. I'll probably face a lot of hardships. And if you regret it?" "I won't regret it. Even if you don't give me a chance, I won't regret it. Because for the first time, I'm doing something because I want to, not because I have to." "Michael," Emily looked at him, "I need to tell you something." "What?" "I missed you too. Even after finding out who you were, even when I was furious, I missed you." "You did?" "I did. Those simple dinners, the conversations, the way you looked at me like I was special. You are special. To you, maybe. But I've learned to like myself too. Here, doing what I love, taking care of my mother, I've discovered I can be happy on my own. I know, and I don't want to change that. I just want to be around, if you'll let me." Emily took a deep breath. "Okay. Okay, what?" "One chance, but with one condition." "What?" "No talking about your past life for now. No money, no businesses, no New York City. I want to know just Michael, not the ex-billionaire. Deal? And one more thing. You'll have to win over my mother. She's suspicious of rich men." "Ex-rich," Michael corrected. "Ex-rich," Emily smiled. "But she's still suspicious." They went back home, and Michael left. But the next day he showed up again, and the day after that too. Slowly, a new routine settled in. Michael started working at the woodshop and discovered he enjoyed manual labor. It was tiring, but there was satisfaction in creating something concrete with his own hands. Emily, little by little, let him get closer. They talked on the porch while she sewed. He helped with small repairs around the house, and gradually Mrs. Parker got used to his presence. "That young man is hard-working," she said to Emily one evening. "And he doesn't have that stuck-up air like the rich ones. Mum, he's not rich anymore." "I know, but he was rich his whole life. It's hard for someone to change just like that." "Do you think he's faking it?" "I don't know. But I'm watching." Mrs. Parker was right to be cautious. Michael really was going through a tough transformation. Used to solving problems with money, he now had to learn to deal with real limitations. When the woodshop couldn't pay its employees for 2 months due to a crisis, Michael had to learn what real financial anxiety felt like. When Mrs. Parker got sick and had to go to the public hospital, he experienced the frustration of not being able to pay for better private care. But every hardship also brought a discovery: the neighbors' solidarity when Mrs. Parker fell ill, the satisfaction of crafting a perfect piece of furniture after several tries, the simple pleasure of a family Sunday, free of obligations or pressures. 6 months after arriving in Rochester, Michael was unrecognizable. His hands were calloused from the woodshop, his posture was more relaxed, and he had learned to smile genuinely. "You're different," Emily said one afternoon. "Different how?" "More real. Before, even when you were being nice, there was something forced. Now you seem natural." "That's because I am. For the first time in my life, I'm who I really am." "And who are you really?" "Someone who likes working with his hands, who enjoys chatting on the porch at the end of the day, who likes helping the neighbors, someone who likes you." Emily smiled. "I like you too, this version of you. Enough to officially be my girlfriend?" "Maybe." "Maybe? You still have to ask for my mother's blessing." Michael laughed. "Will she say yes?" "That depends on how you ask." That evening, Michael prepared a simple dinner: rice, beans, sautéed meat and salad. Nothing fancy, but made with care. "Mrs. Parker," he said after dinner, "I'd like to ask for your permission to officially date Emily." Mrs. Parker studied him. "And what do you have to offer my daughter?" "Not much. A modest salary, a small house I plan to buy, a lot of hard work, and a lot of love." "And that's enough?" "It is for me. I hope it is for her too." Mrs. Parker looked at Emily, who was blushing and smiling. "Emily, what do you think?" "I think so, Mom." "Then it's settled." Mrs. Parker stood and kissed Michael's forehead. "Welcome to the family, son." A year later, Michael and Emily married in a simple ceremony at the neighborhood church. He had bought a small house just 2 blocks from Mrs. Parker's, and Emily had moved her studio there. Life was simple but full. Michael worked at the woodshop and eventually opened his own small workshop. Emily expanded her studio and began teaching sewing to other women in the neighborhood. The end. And you, what did you think of this story? Do you believe someone can change so much for love? Share in the comments which part moved you the most. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss other heartwarming stories like this one.